I've recently read a novel by one of my favorite writers, David Gemmell, who claimed that he wrote books about heroes quite simplistic from literary point of view. They were just genre novels, fantasy novels, so he claimed that he wrote them to inspire people to act heroically. And we're going to return to this notion a little bit later. I've also studied the notion of heroism and its depiction in medieval literature. So this is one of my favorite topics, and also a topic that I find extremely important and I deeply care about it. Let me ask you something. What was the last time when you read a modern novel where the protagonist was a hero? Someone who was brave, purposeful, morally grounded, not perfect, but clear in their values, willing to stand for something bigger than themselves. If you struggle, then you're not alone. In this video, I'd like to explore several things. First of all, why the figure of the hero used to be central in fiction narrative, in stories, in mythology, in literature. Why it is now fading, or rather mutating into something else in modern fiction, and why that loss actually matters deeply to us as readers and to us as people. So let's go to the basics. In medieval literature, in ancient times, in old literature, a hero was not just a man with a sword. A hero was someone through whom a very important set of values, culturally important values, were manifested and then tested and sometimes renewed. You can think of Odysseus, the cunning but somewhat tormented voyager. You can think of Beowulf, fighting monsters, fighting a dragon even, but very much aware of his mortal fate. You can think of knights of King Arthur, of Sir Gawain, for example, who falls but faces that failure with honor. You can also think about Frodo, for example, more modern literature. Let's take Tolkien. Small, humble, burdened, but unwavering. These were not perfect men, but they were heroic in that they faced themselves, they faced their flaws, their fate even, and they did not step back from their trials. A couple of quotes for you. The first is from Odysseus. "Bear up, old heart, you've borne worse than this." The second one is from Le Morte d'Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory. "I would not live to be false of my promise, for there is no greater honour than to be true." Sir Gawain's words. From The Lord of the Rings, Frodo's words. "I will take the ring, though I do not know the way." In the medieval tradition I studied, in ancient tradition, a hero is not the strongest, or is not rather necessarily the strongest. Often it's the one who's most aware of what is at stake, and while being significantly flawed, still ready to risk everything in order to fulfill his promises and achieve something greater than himself. Not egotistically, but in order to serve to others, to his friends, to his country, to his kin, or to honor the values of his culture. Now the question is, what changed? Because now modern fiction mainly centers on the fragmented, the ironic, the self-sabotaging anti-hero who's trying hard not to be taken seriously, as if fearing the response that might follow, or afraid of responsibilities that come with it. In popular modern narrative, even the way people see heroism has mutated. Now it is usually framed as trauma, as cynicism, or accepting oneself, no matter how far from the norm it might be. Several factors are at play here. One of them is postmodernism's influence and maybe even suspicion of grand narratives. Since the mid-20th century, We've distrusted the idea of the noble individual. We've seen too much manipulation, too many hollow slogans. Especially it was noticeable during and after the period of the Second World War, of course, in 60s, in 70s also. The hero people feared was just an advertisement or propaganda slogan. Then there comes the rise of the anti-hero. Think Lannisters, think Walter White, think Tony Soprano, and a huge amount of others. Modern fiction found truth in ambiguity and often in destruction. And this is all right. Fiction should explore different types of narratives, different types of characters, and should present different types of characters. But now this type of anti-hero, from my point of view, became a standard, which is frightening, to be honest. People nowadays don't know what they believe anymore. The world welcomes values that are fluid, that are ambiguous, that are highly negotiable. It is the world of compromise. It is not the world of standing for something that you believe is true. And this feels like a massive cultural shift. And it seems that fiction, modern literature, just follows this shift. The final question is, why does this even matter? Why do we talk about it? Well, that's because stories actually shape us. They shape the way we think and appreciate the world around us. They tell us, they teach us what's possible and what's admirable. They provide direction, they inspire us to act. Throughout history, this was how people actually learned moral frameworks. They learn how to distinguish right from wrong, how to cherish values, and which values should be cherished. And they learned how to see the values of their culture embodied. Heroes were practically containers of those values. They were leading the way while still being critically flawed and making grave mistakes. And this actually was also a very important part of narrative, because even if you do the right thing, you're still susceptible to imperfection, sometimes even more so than those who are passive rather than active. And you will face the consequences of your action, especially when they come from strong will and strong values. Heroic stories prepares their readers. They challenge us to act. They teach us about qualities that are vital. As for me, I long to see more heroes in the pages of modern literature, and since I think heroes are lacking from the pages of modern literature, I still read a lot of old literature. Even though I feel okay about that, about reading ancient and medieval literature, I do not feel okay with the fact that lack of heroes in modern narrative results in lack of heroes in modern life. So I long to see more heroes. They are not going to be perfect, but they are willing to move towards the good. And this is all that matters. When literature forgets about this movement, we're not just losing something in literature. We're not just losing certain types of characters. We are losing a form of hope. So I leave you with this. Who are the last heroes you read about? And what did they awaken in you? Let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to discuss this topic further and return to it in some other videos.